Welcome in, one and all, to Fourth and a Mile, presented by Planet Adam. I am your host, the Pharaoh of Planet Adam, or God King, if you will. I am Adam Fernandez, and man, my hair looks shabby today. Look at that. That looks horrible. I meant to go get a haircut the other day. Well, I did go get a haircut the other day, and, well, they told me that I couldn't because they were closing early, so that's where we're stuck with this awful hair. But, hey, you know what? At the same time, guys, this is the first show I've done in quite some time, especially related to the audio show. The audio show, well, actually, it's been longer since I did a video show, but the audio show, the last one I did, I think was November 6th, election night, if you can believe that. And the last video show I did was maybe 2 football seasons ago. So I was having issues with the computer, and that's why I wasn't doing the video show, but I still did it on the audio version, and you know what, it came out pretty good doing that, and I had fun doing that, and I'm still doing the audio show. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube and you're thinking to yourself, man, this guy is ugly as hell, he's got a face for radio, I don't want to ever see him again, I'd much rather just listen to what he has to say, go on over to iTunes or Spotify or anywhere else you get your podcasts, and you can find Fourth and a Mile on there. And the alternative, if you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, feel free to, and you're saying to yourself, man, this guy sounds extremely sexy. This guy sounds like the sexiest guy who has ever lived, because I think I do. In fact, I know I do. But if that's you, then feel free to go on over to the YouTube channel and watch the exact same show on YouTube. I'm doing them both simultaneously. Neither one of these are live yet. Or at least they're not live in the sense that you're not going to be hearing them while I'm recording them. But I plan on doing it live, the video version, here in the near future. I just got to figure out some kinks on it. You know how it'd be with technology, and, well, me, because I'm not very tech savvy, never have been. But hey, I'm doing it all on my own. You know, you get what you ask for if you want to watch the show or listen to the show. But I do want to apologize to everybody for being away as long as I have been. There were a couple times where I was hitting it coming back. Between work and school, finding time to do this was just such a headache. I'm still in school. I'm still working. I'm working at a different law firm now. Busier law firm, I think, as far as our caseload goes. At the same time, I had the passion to go ahead and do it. So I'm doing it right now for you guys. I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys approve of it. I hope you guys understand that it was just too much to do for a long time. And it's still, like I said, it still is. It's just, you know, it's still a lot of fun, and something I've always still wanted to do. And so that's why I'm doing it now. I'm still doing the show. Excuse me. And as you guys know, I cough a lot. You know, it's not COVID. I've been tested like 100 times. It's not COVID. So relax. All that being said, I do feel like CM Punk in Chicago the other night. Yeah, I know this, pro wrestling's normally not one of the sports I talk about, but at the same time, I still do like wrestling, and so if you watched that the other night, then you saw something really cool. But that's kind of how I feel right now, only I don't have 40,000 people chanting Adam, Adam. I think you guys. There we go. We are back on the video. Let's see if it holds up for you guys in the audio world. You know, we're having some technical difficulties with the video, so I'm gonna have to splice these two together. So if you see a jump in the video, that's why. But yeah, let's talk about some of the stuff that's happened in sports. First off, you guys know I'm a huge baseball fan, a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan. I do not think the Cardinals are at this point stand a chance to make it to the postseason. I think they gave up their last best shot to get into the postseason. They had won 5 straight games. They were looking pretty good. They go back home to play Pittsburgh, lowly Pittsburgh. To tell you how bad Pittsburgh is, we're not even in September yet. They are 1 loss away from not being able to finish at 500 for the year. They have 80 losses right now. 1 more, they're at 500. That's the most they can get. They're not as bad as, say, the Orioles or, who else? The Diamondbacks. They're not as bad as, I hate to say it to all my friends here in Texas that are Rangers fans, are not as bad as the Rangers, who are at that mark. So the Rangers lose 1 more game, then they won't even get over 500. And they still have 30-something games to go, so they're going to lose at least 1. I doubt they're going to go on a 30-plus game winning streak. That being said, so the Cardinals aren't that bad. The Pirates aren't that bad either, you know, but the Cardinals had their opportunity. And again, I'm not going to blame this past series on the pitching, really. The bullpen, yeah, maybe a little bit. But the starting pitching looked really good. Where's the offense? We brought in Nolan Arenado to start the season, in the early parts of the season. We brought him on to be an offensive spark. He wasn't much of one. Or he hasn't been much of one. Yes, he's, got a ton of home runs, but his batting average, he tends to get out when runners are on base. He's just not really, to me, been the Nolan Arenado that he was with Colorado. And I know that if you're listening on KMOX, if you're watching Bally Sports, and you're hearing the guys over there, they're going to tell you a different story, that yes, he's just as great as Nolan Arenado was with Colorado. He's not. He's not. That doesn't mean that he can't be again. He's still relatively young. He's, still probably right around the start of the prime of his career. But he's not been the same as what he was in Colorado. And you can say that's understandable. A lot of people will tell you that your offense will always play better in Colorado than it will anywhere else, really, just because of how thin the air is there. But he hasn't been clutch really at all. He's been clutch maybe once or twice, but once or twice when you're a superstar like that, that's not a lot to go on. So Nolan Arenado has not been Nolan Arenado. Paul Goldschmidt always has a tendency to start the season off slow, then pick it up in the about the second quarter of the season, and really shine in the second half. He really hasn't done that either. Tommy Edman hasn't done much. Tyler O'Neill, I think, has been the biggest surprise for all the Cardinals. It was actually something I was expecting. You can ask the family this. I told them this all the time. Give O'Neill every day at bats and watch. You're going to see him be pretty damn amazing, and he has been. But even he has been very streaky. Bader has always been streaky. I love Bader in the outfield. As great a defensive center fielder as there is in the game right now, bar none. But he's streaky as streaky can be on the offense. Dylan Carlson, I think, is going to end up being a really good player sometime. I honestly think that it's going to be him having to leave St. Louis in order to be that really great player. And the reason I say that is because look at all these great players that the Cardinals have given up in recent years. And I wasn't against giving them up because they weren't doing anything with the Cardinals. But then they go off to like Luke Voit to New York. Last year he led the majors in home runs. Randy Arozarena had that phenomenal postseason last year. Now he leads all-time home runs in the postseason. Granted, he also played more postseason games than anybody else, too, considering that the postseason last year was longer than what it normally is. But he had a phenomenal postseason last year. Just a bunch of other... Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn is right up there with one of the best pitchers in baseball. Cardinals got rid of him, too. Colton Wong goes over to Milwaukee. Colton Wong had a really good season last year. Had a really good season the last 2 years. But nothing compared to what he's doing this year for the Brewers. And now he's sitting in first place while the rest of his former teammates are sitting in third place. What are we now? 12 games out, I think. So there comes a point if you're Bill DeWitt that you have to say enough is enough. I'm the owner, I'm making money, that's great, but I'm not going to keep making money if my team keeps playing this subpar. And this subpar for the Cardinals is a pretty decent year for a lot of other teams, but this is the St. Louis Cardinals. They have the second most World Series titles in history, next to the Yankees, which they're way behind the Yankees, but everybody is. This is the city that is considered baseball heaven. They haven't been playing like they are in heaven at all this year. They barely did it last year. They snuck into the playoffs last year, and it's because of the expanded playoffs that they had last year. The Cardinals just have not been very good for the past several years. The last time they were really a really good team was 2013. They've had a lot of seasons where they had good seasons, but they weren't a really good team. The last time was 2013. So if you're Bill DeWitt, there comes a point where you've got to say that something needs to be done. I need to cut the fat somewhere. If that's Mike Schilt, I'm all for that. If it's Mike Maddox, I'm all for that. I don't even remember what the new hitting coach's name is. If it's him, I'm all for that too. I'm definitely 100% for cutting your vice president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak. He needs to go. He's, I think, a big reason, because I don't think it's because of the lack of talent on this team. There's a ton of talent, and it goes back to what I was just saying a little while ago, where you had all these players that have gone on to other teams and have had great seasons, great careers with these other teams. So it hasn't been a lack of talent. It's something in the culture there. It's a lack of desire to win, a lack of desire to play the Cardinal way. That is unforgivable, and it, to me, stems from the top. It actually really stems from Bill DeWitt himself, but DeWitt's the owner. He's not going to fire himself. So you need to go to the number 2 guy, which is John Mozeliak, the guy that makes all the decisions as to who comes in and who's the manager, who are the coaches, different free agents you bring in. That's where it needs to be cut off. This team has not been a great team in 8 years? I'm trying to do the math in my head, and we all know I'm not very good at math. So what is the issue? You've had talent. You've had a ton of talent. You just let it go elsewhere so you can bring in other guys that you thought would be talent and haven't been. So it's got to be something in the culture. That's the only thing I can think of. And it's not the culture of the city of St. Louis. They still love their Cardinals. We still are all Cardinal fans. And I say we, I don't live in St. Louis. I live in Texas. But it's not the fans. It's not the city of St. Louis. It's that upper echelon of the St. Louis Cardinals. That's what the issue is. That's where you need to trim the fat. Because, and the fans have shown it this year. Busch Stadium, now you can make all the excuses in the world. You can say, well, it's COVID going on. That's why they're not selling out. That's BS and you know it. That's BS and you know it. There used to be years where the Cardinals sold out every single solitary game. This year, I don't think they've sold out one. They're hovering usually around, 70% attendance maybe? Maybe? The fans are starting to let Bill DeWitt know this. And if that's what they have to do in order to get a winning product on the field, to let him know that, hey, we are not happy with the way Mo has run things because he's run them into the ground. If that's what they have to do, then kudos to all the fans in St. Louis. You guys got my respect on that one. You guys did a great job there. You guys are doing a great job there. I still say, you want to support the team, but that doesn't necessarily mean financially support them, especially if they're not putting out a product that is worthy of the birds on the bat. So that's my take. I've been saying this for years. I mean, you can go back to when I used to do the live show in my bedroom, when I had the West Ham flag behind me with all the signatures and all that also on there, which, by the way, I still have all that. Alyssa doesn't let me decorate how I like to decorate. She didn't hear me, good, because she'll kill me. But yeah, I've been saying it for years that he's been, meaning Mozeliak himself, Mo, has been one of, if not the biggest problem in the Cardinals organization. He needs to go. He's not a Cardinal. I don't think he ever was. I think he was a good business hire for Bill DeWitt. But the problem is that, guess what? The Miami Marlins had a lot of good business hires too. They never won a damn thing. Well, other than those 2 years that they stacked up a bunch of all-stars on the teams and won the World Series that way, buying themselves World Series titles. But the very next year, guess what? All those guys were gone. So, yeah, the Marlins have had a bunch of great business hires. Doesn't mean that that's a winning product. It just means they know a good way to cut costs and bring in money. So, that's what the Cardinals need to do, though. They need to get rid of Mozeliak. They need to get rid of Mike Shildt. I have nothing personally against Mike Shildt. I think he's actually kind of a cool guy. But he's part of this regime that has really killed the Cardinals. When he first came in and replaced Matheny, he was hot. And you know what? I was like, this guy might actually do something really good. But he's part of getting the talent there inspired to win. And he hasn't done it in the past couple of years. So that's all for the Cardinals now. I do want to get into a little college football talk before we get into the news. We'll get into the news after the break. But again, this isn't really recent news in the sense that, we've known about it now for several weeks. But Oklahoma and the University of Texas, the TSIPs, are coming over to the SEC to join Texas A&M, their former rival, and, well, all the big dogs. I'm not happy about it. And I know I got a bunch of Longhorn fans that are my friends on Facebook who are going to possibly see this. I don't know. I might get 3 views on Facebook. I don't know. But here's the thing. Me not liking it has absolutely nothing to do with me being scared of Texas. In fact, I'm wanting to bring on my brother again here in a week or two. I interviewed him last year before the season. Okay. They're just telling me my podcasting season or my podcasting journey starts today. It's been going on, so thank you, Anchor. Anyways, I want to bring him on too, and he could probably get this point across even better than I can. We're not scared of Texas. If you honestly believe that we're scared of Texas, you're out of your damn mind. We've got doing the math here again, 9-year head start on you guys. We're not scared of you at all. What we're scared of, we're not scared of playing you on the field. You cannot tell me since the Aggies left the Big 12, every single solitary year, they would have demolished Texas. It would have been a bloodbath. Every single year. The Longhorns would not have stood a chance. They'll stand a lot better of a chance when they make it over to the SEC in a couple of years, because they will get better recruiting. But that doesn't mean that we're scared of them by any stretch of the imagination. Because frankly, Texas and Oklahoma, they're going to have their years of growing pains in the SEC, and it's going to be quite some time before they're even relevant in the SEC. If they think that they're going to come into the SEC in 2025 and win a conference title right away, sorry, that's nothing can be further from the truth of happening. You guys don't stand a chance of that happening. You got some talent over there, don't get me wrong, on both teams, Oklahoma and Texas. Definitely a lot more on Oklahoma because Texas has just been kind of middle of the road for the past 7-8 years. Oh, we beat Georgia. Okay. Okay. We'll give you that one. And for all of you in audio land, that was me just kind of rolling my eyes at that one. Anyways, now the reason we're against you guys coming over to the SEC, and it's not even Oklahoma that we're against coming over to the SEC. Oklahoma's never been a problem. You know, they've always had good teams, and when we lose to them, we lose to them. Hey, you know what? That happens. But Oklahoma, though they are the top dog in the Big 12 year in and year out, they haven't been the problem of the Big 12. The reason the Big 12 sucks as bad as it does right now, squarely on Texas. Squarely on Texas. They get all this revenue because they have their Longhorn network. The rest of the Big 12 doesn't have a channel to play on. There is no SEC network for the Big 12. There is no ACC network for the Big 12. No Pac-12, no Big 10 network for the Big 12. Why is that? Because the Big 12 has a Longhorn network, which highlights one team. Texas has always had this blue blood mentality when they're barely a blue blood. If you want a blue blood, you talk to guys like Michigan or Notre Dame or Alabama, the top college football program in history. Those are blue bloods. Ohio State, USC. Well, we beat USC in 05. That was 2005, dude. 2005. And y'all barely did that. It was a great game. Don't get me wrong. Great game. That Vince Young touchdown at the end. One of the all-time most historic plays in the history of college football. That being said, you guys you're not one of those teams. Nebraska, that's another one. all these teams that I've just put out in front of you, throughout their history, your history very much is behind them. So you're not really, you are technically a blue blood, but you're barely there. And yet you have this blue blood sort of arrogant attitude that everything needs to be handed to you. I honestly think that's the reason why you're leaving the Big 12. Not necessarily because Oklahoma is as well, but because you guys decided at some point that, well, we're supposed to be the Big 12 champions, and we're not. What the hell, Big 12? We're going to leave. So you're blaming the Big 12. Never mind the shitty coaching decisions you guys have made and your coaching hires, as well as the decisions that they've made on the field. As much as I thought the talent at Texas was overrated, those losses to Maryland were more on the coaches, more on Charlie Strong, Tom Herman. You guys have not had a good coach since Mack Brown. And yes, Mack Brown started kind of falling off there towards the end, but I honestly believe that it's the same exact reason. He started falling off for the same exact reason that Nick Saban didn't want to go to Texas. Remember, a few years ago, you guys were that close to signing Nick Saban. You know why he didn't go? His own words is he didn't feel like dealing with that damn bureaucracy that is y'all's booster club. He didn't feel like dealing with that. With the university itself. Not that they would have anything to gripe or complain to him about, but the fact that he would have to go answer to them every single day, he didn't want to have anything to do with that. He has straight up said that. There was Paul Feinbaum is the one that released that information a couple days ago. That when he was talking to Saban, it was Saban saying that he did not want to have to deal with the people at the University of Texas. Because y'all expect way too much for way too little. Now, I'm not trying to bash on the University of Texas. I kind of am, but the fact of the matter is that you guys aren't what you guys think you are. You guys love to say that you are. You love to think that you're right up there with Alabama, with Nebraska, with Ohio State, with Notre Dame. You guys aren't close at all. This doing the podcasting journey starts today again. So, let me just make it clear one more time here before we go to break. Nobody is scared of playing Texas. We're scared of Texas doing what they always do, which is ruining everything they touch. They ruined the Big 12. Sorry, that was all Texas. That wasn't Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't have the Sooner network. The Sooners have just been able to put out better teams the past 8 years. A lot better teams. And even more than that, Oklahoma stands double digits more Big 12 titles than anybody else in the conference, probably than everyone else in the history of the conference put together. Let me make sure this is still recording because it keeps... Oh, yeah, okay, it is. So, yeah. Texas, the Big 12 falling apart is your fault. That's what people are concerned about with you going over to the SEC. Is that you're going to go in there and you're going to be wanting things handed to you. Thankfully, you're already starting to kind of feel that they won't be. That's why you're willing to give up the Longhorn Network. So, yeah, you guys aren't going to be making that money. I mean, you're going to be well compensated by being part of the SEC. But, you know, so is everyone else. So, with that, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the recent news, everything going on in the world of sports today. Right, stay tuned, and I'll see y'all here on the flip side. I've always wanted to say that. I never have said that on this show before. But yes, I'll see you on the flip side. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back indeed. Got a lot of stuff to go over in the news too today. Just some odd happenings, and then just some regular happenings. Also, an article that I saw that I thought was kind of interesting, where we're talking about the top 100 college football players of all time. We'll get in the top 25, and we're not even going to talk about all of them either. Or not all time, I'm sorry, of today. But we're not even going to talk about all of them either. I'm just going to go through the list and let you guys know who's all on it and all that. First, though, let me say this, guys. If you or anyone you know have some original music that you want me to put on the show for, the breaks or whatever, let me know. Send it over my way, and if I dig it, it'll get on the air. A little bit of free advertising for you guys. That being said, let's get into the news. We're going to start in... Let's see, do we start with the NFL or do we start with college? Let's start with the NFL. Why not? Cam Newton, the quarterback of the Patriots, the most likely Week 1 starter. Mac Jones has looked pretty okay, so there's a chance that he'll get it. But according to Bill Belichick, Cam Newton has seniority simply because, he's the veteran who's already been there, 1 year. But I really believe if you start seeing Cam Newton slide off, then you're going to see a lot of Mac Jones this year as well. And I'm not a Patriots fan, but I like Mac Jones. I'm kind of interested to see what he can do this year, or even next year when he's a little more seasoned and has a little more experience under his belt. But all that being said, Cam Newton is now going to be out 5 days out of training camp for misunderstanding, quote unquote, for y'all there in audio land, the COVID test protocols in the NFL. He was supposed to get tested on the team site. He instead went to a hospital and got tested. That's not how it works in the NFL. You need to be there at the home site. So he's going to basically be on 5 days NFL quarantine, which he'll still be able to virtually participate in team activities, which means not throwing the ball, I would assume. If there's some new technology where he can throw the ball from his bedroom, and it count as practice, I haven't seen that yet. But again, I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know. But he will be participating in team activities. My guess is, team meetings, quarterback meetings, that kind of thing. But yeah, he's still, even missing these 5 days, Belichick himself has pretty much still said that Cam is his starter going into Week 1. So we'll see if he should be able to play this weekend. I can't remember who they have this weekend, but he should be able to play in that game. It's the final preseason game of the year for the Patriots. He should be able to play, and he's most likely going to end up being the starter, come Week 1. More NFL news, and this is just kind of a funny story to me, at least. Back in 2018, the Raiders traded Khalil Mack to the Bears. Khalil Mack had a great time with the Raiders as far as statistics go. He's had his equally, if not more impressive time with the Bears. The rumor had been for a long time that John Gruden had been the one behind wanting to get rid of Khalil Mack. He didn't want Mack on the team, was the rumor. But apparently sometime this offseason, the Raiders approached the Bears to trade to get him back. I just find that to be kind of funny. You get rid of this one guy, and now you're wanting him back. According to Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, son of Al Davis, it had more to do with the fact that they weren't going to be able to afford his salary, and so they wanted to go ahead and trade him away, and so that he could be paid by a team that could pay him what he wanted, which happened to be the Bears. But now I guess they can afford it, and so now they're trying to get him back. And it's it's just a case of if you If you let her go and she comes back, it was true love. If not, it was never meant to be. So Khalil Mack is going to stay a Bear. The Raiders ended up signing someone else. Trying to remember who that was before I go off on anything else. They where is it? I know it's in here because I was reading it earlier. Because I like to read these things before I talk to you guys about them. Well, I'm not seeing. Oh wait, yeah, Ngakoue. Can't even remember what his first name is now. Anyways, so they went ahead and signed him from the Jaguars, and he's not as big of a name as Khalil Mack. He's not as good as Khalil Mack, but he's still pretty solid. So the Raiders' defense, which their pass rush finished 29th in the league last year, should be slightly improved, but you know that's exactly why they're going after Khalil Mack, because he's one of the top pass rushers in the NFL. I would probably put him in the top 3 or 4 maybe. Yeah, so they weren't going to get him. The Bears weren't going to part ways with him. I just, again, thought that was a funny story that even though they traded him away a few years ago, they still wanted him back. Like the old girlfriend. You still want her back, right? Still in the NFL, Jimmy Garoppolo is still the current starter for San Francisco, and Kyle Shanahan says that right now is not the time to decide who the starter is going to be. I mean, you have one preseason game left, so if now's not the time, then when. But Trey Lance looked very impressive against, I was about to say the San Diego Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers. That still just doesn't sound right to me. I know they were originally the Los Angeles Chargers, but they were San Diego for so long that, you know, it rolls off the tongue, San Diego Chargers. But this isn't about the Chargers. This is about San Francisco, not Diego, Francisco. I don't know if there's an English translation for Diego, but, you know, not him, but Frank. Anyways, so Garoppolo has looked, and I think saying mediocre is being nice to Garoppolo. I think that Garoppolo still has a chance to be one hell of a quarterback. You know, he was really good as a backup for Tom Brady in New England. The first year or two that he was in San Francisco, he looked phenomenal. Last year, he just kind of tanked. And I know he had a lot of injuries. This year so far in the preseason, though, he's looked, like I said, mediocre at best. It would not surprise me if Kyle Shanahan decides to pull the trigger and let Trey Lance get the start in week 1. I've never been a fan of rookie starting in week 1. I think for a team like Jacksonville, you don't really have much of a choice. I love Gardner Minshew, don't get me wrong. I don't think Gardner Minshew is at least not yet, is a starting quarterback in the NFL. He had a rough year last year. Speaking of, the Jaguars are playing right now, and I meant to turn that game on to watch it in silence while I talk to you guys, but I totally forgot to. I did want to see Trevor Lawrence play, but anyways, it looks like Trey Lance is really making in, I don't know what happened there. See if I'm still recording. Yeah, still recording video. Something happened. My computer just kind of shut down on me. This computer, I've had it about a year now, and it's starting to already look its age. The iPad is still working great, though, amazingly. The iPad works fantastic. It looks like my guess is that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starter in week 1. But I think he's going to have a very short leash, and if he doesn't come out and impress right away, you're going to see Trey Lance in week 3 or 4 as the starter. Because I just think that kid actually has a huge upside, Trey Lance. I still think Garoppolo does too. but Lance is a little younger, and his upside, I think, might be a little bigger than Garoppolo. So, if something like that happens, then I would love to see them trade Garoppolo. I don't know what team would get him, but I would love to see Garoppolo be successful at that other team. So yeah, that's what's going on in the NFL. Let's talk a little college football again. The Big Ten, as well as the SEC now, are saying that teams that aren't able to play because they don't or they don't have enough players to play due to COVID regulations will have to forfeit those games. And in the SEC, it's going to be a little more strict, where the SEC schools will have to pay the SEC, and I think it's right now an unreleased amount, if they can't play. The SEC is well known for being the conference that pays their schools the most in revenue sharing at the end of the year. And so what they're going to end up doing is, from what I could tell, they're going to just go ahead and cut out some of that pay, and so those schools won't get it. So this is actually the opportunity, I guess, for some of the lesser known schools in the SEC, your South Carolinas, your Mississippi States, your Ole Misses, maybe, to maybe catch up, because those forfeits are going to be considered losses, and those schools aren't going to get that money, and that money, a lot of that goes into recruiting. So that might be their opportunity. As sad as that sounds, COVID might end up being a good thing for those schools. Yeah, in the Big Ten, they haven't said that yet, but they are still going to make teams forfeit. So it'll count as a loss against them. So that'll hurt them trying to get into the national championship, or trying to get into the playoffs, if they have too many forfeits. I would think it would hurt at least. But, Ohio State only won, 6 games last year before the playoffs? They had 5, and then the Big Ten championship was the 6th win. So, they went undefeated up until the playoffs. Playoffs. So, here's one of my favorite news stories of the day. As you can tell, this is the cherry version, but there we go. I am a huge Dr. Pepper fan, and I'm still waiting for that royalty check there, guys in Waco, the headquarters of Dr. Pepper. I'm waiting for that royalty check. I've been advertising you guys for years on this show. Years. You guys still haven't paid me anything. I advertise you guys all the time. So, but yes, I'm a huge Dr. Pepper fan. And I am the key example of advertising works. Now, it wasn't the Fansville commercials that got me to start being this huge Dr. Pepper fan. It was actually the I can't even remember what his name is now. They had the guy that was the vendor in the stadium who said things like, yeah, you like the Hail Mary? I created the Hail Mary. That guy is what got me into being such a huge Dr. Pepper fan. So, yes, advertising works. But the new series of commercials they've had on for the past few years, the Fansville commercials, I love those too. Those are some awesome commercials. And they will be back this year. I don't know why that's such a huge story, but to me it is, because I love the Fansville commercials. And that's pretty much the only real part of that I can really say is important, is that they are going to be back. And it will be the episodic drama commercials that they have been, which have been just hilarious. So they will be back. I am glad about that. Speaking of coming back and college football, Lee Corso will be on set this year for College Game Day. Last year he was doing the work from home Zoom meetings during College Game Day. Just wasn't as fun to not have him out there at 88 years old, putting on those mascot heads, with who he thinks is going to win. So it's good to see the old guy back. Legendary ball coach in his own right. He'll be back on College Game Day as well, starting week 1. So I'm excited for that too. Now let's get into this list of. Well, like I said, the list that ESPN had was the top 100. I might go ahead and link this story to Twitter or to Facebook just so you can see the entire list if you don't already have the ESPN app on your phone. But I'm only going to do the top 25 because it's already almost 8:30 and I don't feel like going through a list of 100 players. And I'm not even going to go thoroughly through the list of the top 25 guys. I'm just going to go through some of them, tell you a little bit about some of them. And that's what we're going to do. And that's where we're going to end the night, by the way, guys. So, the number one player in college football, according to ESPN, because they're doing it from 1 down, not, 100 to, maybe I should have done it top 25 and or I am doing it top 25, but started from 25, gone down to 1, but ESPN didn't do that, so why should I? So the number one player in college football this year, according to ESPN, Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma, their quarterback. Now, Rattler had a tough start to last year, threw a lot of interceptions in those first 3 games, got benched during the game against Texas. But after that, he came back in that game against Texas, and he shredded them up, and he just started shredding everybody else up. So now he's got some experience. Now he knows what happens when you get benched. And he's also got a lot of offensive talent on that team. The problem for Oklahoma is going to be the same problem that Oklahoma has had for the past several years. Lack of real defense. Yes, they can play defense in the Big 12. That doesn't equate to playing defense against SEC schools or Ohio State or Notre Dame or ACC schools like Clemson. So, but he is the number one player in college football again, according to ESPN. Number 2 is Derek Stingley from LSU. Number 3 is Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon. I honestly, for some reason, I thought he had gotten drafted until I read this, and I was like, wait a minute, yeah, he is still playing. Number 4 is an offensive tackle from Alabama, Evan Neal. Number 5, we're going to go with another quarterback here. This guy is, who I would actually say is possibly the best quarterback in college football, Sam Howell from North Carolina. If you haven't seen this kid play and you're a college football fan, I definitely recommend watching a North Carolina game, watching him play. This kid is amazing. His first 2 years at North Carolina, and yeah, even they said he's, I'm going to quote ESPN here, blossomed into arguably the country's best quarterback. He's accounted for 76 touchdowns, 7,400 yards. The North Carolina program right now is seeing heights that they haven't seen possibly ever. So I think a lot of it is also due to Mac Brown too. Don't get me wrong. It's not just Sam Howell. But this is a team that I honestly think could challenge Clemson. And I think Clemson this year is vulnerable. They haven't been vulnerable in several years. And I'm talking about even before Trevor Lawrence. With Deshaun Watson and, what was his name in between Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. But, so they haven't been vulnerable at all. I think this year they're vulnerable. They lose their best running back. They lose their starting quarterback. They lose a lot of other guys to the draft. Clemson's vulnerable, and I think North Carolina is a team that can knock them off. I also think Miami's up there too. I think De'Aaron King is going to come out this year and have a great year for the Hurricanes. But I would say right now, if you're going to ask me who stands the best chance of winning the ACC that is not Clemson, I would say North Carolina, and Sam Howell is a huge reason why, him and Mac Brown. Number 6, Chris, and I hate saying this guy's name because I never know if I'm saying it right. Chris Olave from Ohio State, great wide receiver. He is going to be drafted, and he's going to be a high draft pick. I can tell you that right now. Number 7 is Kyle Hamilton, safety from Notre Dame. Number 8, Marvin Mims, a wide receiver from Oklahoma, going back to the great talent that Spencer Rattler has surrounding him. This kid is amazing. Excuse me. 9 touchdowns last year, 610 yards. He's going to be even better this year because Spencer Rattler is going to be even better this year. So look out for Marvin Mims. Number 9 is Breece Hall, and I really like Breece Hall. Breece Hall is a guy that a lot of people don't even know who he is. The reason is because he plays for Ohio State, because he plays for Iowa State. Iowa State is a school that has recent years been kind of a thorn in the side of the top echelon in the Big 12. They were actually making a run for the playoffs last year. They came up just short. But a big reason for that is Breece Hall. 1,572 yards on the ground. He's a workhorse. He had 279 carries. His yards after catch were contact were 820. This kid is good. Again, the reason you don't know of him, if you don't know of him, is because he doesn't play for Ohio State or Oklahoma or Texas or Alabama or LSU. He plays for Iowa State, a team that has traditionally been a bottom dweller in whatever conference they're in, but in recent years, they've come up a long way, and he's a part of it, especially from last year. Number 10 is Will Anderson Jr. From Alabama, linebacker. Brian Breesy from Clemson, defensive tackle, is number 11. Keaton Slovis, that's a guy that I haven't really had a chance to watch too much. Mainly because he plays out there on the West Coast, and usually when his games are going on, I'm about 6 or 7 beers deep. He's had some great numbers for USC. USC still has just not been able to pull together a great season even with him there, but this might be the year that they can do it. But he is number 12 on the list. Number 13 is the guy that I thought should have been way higher up on this list. Running back Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M. And it's not a homer or a bias that I think he should have been higher up on the list. This guy, to me, is the reason the Aggies were as good last year as they were. Kellen Mond had a good year. A big part of that was because defenses were finally scared of a running game. This guy himself won the game for Texas A&M against Florida. I have no problem of saying that. It was Isaiah Spiller that won that game. Whether it's because of the yards he put up, or him stopping, forcing the Florida defense to pay attention to him instead of Kellen Mond. Because Kellen Mond had a great game that game too, but he didn't really start having a great game until they started giving Isaiah Spiller the ball. There was that one drive late in the first half, and I'm just winging this, so I'm trying to remember. I think it was like they gave him the ball 4 straight carries, and each one of those were like 8, 9, 10-yard carries. And the Gators just had problems taking him down. They got scared of him at that point. Isaiah Spiller had as good of a year as a running back as any running back in the entire country. And you put in there also Devin Achane. That is going to be one scary running back core. I mean, he was already a big time name last year as well. Achane was. That 1-2 punch for the running backs, that's going to be something to watch. Whoever the Aggies have start as quarterback, my guess is Haynes King. They might go Zach Calzada. But that's going to be a lot of pressure taken off of them, which is, I think, a big reason as to why you start Haynes King. because he'll be, I think, a sophomore this year. And being a sophomore this year, this will give him, a lot more time in the pocket, because teams are going to be a lot more are going to be scared of running or of defending these guys. So, number 14 from the University of Texas, running back Bijan Johnson. He was pretty good. I do remember him as well. DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M is number 15, defensive end. Quarterback Malik Willis from Liberty. Yes, we have a group of 5 school here in the top 25. Liberty. Even though they're not really a group of 5 because they're an independent, but they're pretty much a group of 5 school. But yes, Malik Willis is possibly the top dual threat quarterback in the country. Number 16 on this list. I think he deserves to be there. He can run, he can throw, he's going to be good. He's got a lot of NFL scouts looking at him too. Kenyon Green from Texas A&M, offensive guard, is number 17. Matt Corral, the quarterback out of Ole Miss, had a great year in the first year of Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's offense, nobody can tell me that he's ever had a weak offense. Corral here benefited greatly from being under the tutelage of Lane Kiffin, or Joey Freshwater, whatever you want to call him. So he's going to still go out and have I think another great year. Ole Miss might be one of those sleepers in the SEC. I know they're going into the season ranked. That doesn't mean really much in the SEC, because you have like every other school in the conference is ranked too, because that's how good that conference is. But I think that they could be a sleeper, and I don't think they're going to win the division, but they could give Alabama a run. They actually scared Alabama last year, and we all know how great Alabama was last year. That game against Alabama, Ole Miss had them scared. I don't care what Nick Saban says. Ohio State wide receiver Garrett Wilson is number 19. Number 20 is Desmond Ridder, quarterback out of Cincinnati. He's actually, again, one of these guys that you just don't hear about because he plays for Cincinnati. Another school that was making a playoff push towards the end of the year. Didn't get in mainly because they're a group of 5 school. They finished 6th in the final rankings. They finished 6th, or the final pre-playoff rankings. They finished number 6, and so they were out of the playoffs. They finished right behind Texas A&M. Bryce Young, quarterback out of Alabama, is number 21, and this is the one that I really have an issue with, and I'll tell you why. It's not because I don't think this kid's going to be really good. I really think he will be. We don't really know that much about him. Yes, he played a little bit last year. A little bit. I don't think he played enough to where you can actually put him as the number 21 player in college football right now. He was the backup to Mac Jones. And Mac Jones, as we already talked about earlier in the show, fantastic year on a fantastic team. I don't see putting Bryce Young this high up yet. But, again, he could very well prove me wrong, and I will not be surprised if he does. Because he is good. He's really, really good. John Mechie III, wide receiver out of Alabama, is number 22. Number 23 is Christian Harris, linebacker from Alabama. 24 is JT Daniels, who I thought he really had a good year when he came on last year for Georgia, in case you didn't know. But I think he's really a good quarterback, and he's going to end up being really good for Georgia. So